So there's such an outstanding opportunity in the hotel industry to sell underutilized parking spaces to non-hotel guests. Before Ocra, there was no GDS or revenue management system of these parking OTAs that exist. And so a hotelier would have to log into all these disparate systems to manage rates, manage inventory, which oftentimes resulted in just kind of setting it and forgetting it. But with Ocra, we've really built this ability in the software that's AI powered, but uses humans in the loop to help ensure that we can revenue manage the revenue per available space, as well as ensure that inventory is never a problem, because we never want to compromise guest satisfaction. We never want to cause an issue for group bookings where people expect parking spaces as guests of the hotel. It's really meant for the excess parking inventory that otherwise, would go unsold, because parking is perishable. A space that's empty really can be monetized. Yeah, the story of Ocra dates back to 2018 when Nate, who was one of my soccer teammates in college, and I said, let's go find a problem to solve. And that problem was parking around the LA Coliseum. Event parking for so long has been a problem in the traditional parking industry. Even before getting into hospitality, there was really never a GDS or RMS built for parking spaces. And so ultimately we went out to solve this problem where you had all these homeowners with cardboard signs that were selling their parking spaces for cash of whoever was driving by. What we did is we built this parking operation business, and that parking operator business was great because we were able to centralize the management of all these disparate assets. However, what we realized is that there's a much larger fragmentation problem that exists in parking where none of these technologies integrate to one another. And so doing something as simple as managing 20 spaces at one asset across 5 of these different parking OTAs or online channels was incredibly difficult. Because what you'd have to do is say, I'll give 4 spaces to each of my 5 channels to try and sell all 20 spaces. But inevitably, one channel would sell all 4 spaces, another channel would sell 2 spaces. So now you're chasing this delta of 2 spaces for an individual time period. It could be 30 minutes or an hour. And what you end up doing is trying to call your account reps at each company, logging all these different extranets, and it's a complete and utter problem that these parking operations companies have never been able to solve. And so when COVID hit and we realized that our event parking business had to shift, what we did was we actually built a bot on LinkedIn. We reached out to about 3,000 folks in the parking industry and said, what problems do you have? What are your tech initiatives? And how can we help? And ultimately what we found was that there was this ubiquitous fragmentation issue where none of these parking companies had built a way to centrally manage inventory across all these online sales channels or parking OTAs. And then for rate management, there was no ability to change rates without trying to call your account reps or log into all these systems. And so we built this software that's like essentially an AI-powered revenue management system with a hybrid GDS. And then as we grew the company, we realized that one of the most underserved verticals of the parking industry is hospitality. And so when we got into hospitality, we started partnering with some companies like MCR Hotels, who quickly saw the value of what we could do for non-guest parking, especially through these parking OTAs. And we started generating millions of incremental revenue that they'd not seen before. We partnered with their parking operators, we partnered with their hotel GMs, if it was a self-park asset without an operator. And ultimately our goal was to increase revenue and increase their NOI. And over time that continued to grow to a place where now, I think in 2025, we generated $28 million in incremental revenue for 118 hotel assets. And we continue to grow that by the day. Our hotels that we work with love our partnership because it's less work, they make more money, and our business model is full upside. We don't make $1 until we incrementally make the hotel even more. So our technology is comprised of essentially a GDS, a component for these parking OTAs to centralize the inventory management and pull them all together. But also we've built this hybrid revenue management system so we can actually change rates in one place and relatively dynamically across all these disparate channels. Historically, that was a huge difficulty because each parking OTA has been built differently. There's a shortage of actually APIs and open APIs in our parking industry. And so we partnered with all these companies such as Spot Hero, ParkWiz, airportparkingreservations.com to build such a sophisticated software where the rising tide can raise all boats. And over time, what we found is building a software wasn't enough for the industry. So there's no division of labor of revenue management. And so even if we give the software to a hotel, the GM doesn't have time to go log in every day and manage their parking inventory for non-guest parkers. And so we actually developed a revenue management component to our business. And it's really AI powered. We use a human in the loop that goes in every day, makes rate adjustments, syncs up weekly with the hotel team or the parking operator if one's in place. And the goal of that person is to train our algorithms so that no two assets are treated the same. Every asset is individual. And then our algorithms can pick up on momentum over time to make sure we can automate rate changes and make the most revenue per available space, the same way you try and do revenue per available room in hospitality. So today, Ocra is live at just about 700 locations across the country. That's a mixture of off-airport assets, event-adjacent assets, and assets that are in downtown urban core. And what really separates Ocra is that we're not a one-size-fits-all. We build the software and our services to make sure that's best for the asset itself. We turn down more locations than we take. However, we're fully agnostic where we work with assets with parking operators, without operators, with gates, without gates, surface lots and garages. It really doesn't matter how the parking asset is designed. Our team is comprised of many former parking operators with over 100 years of parking operations experience combined, and a lot of hoteliers as well, who have seen the other side of the business to ensure that we really can empathize with our clientele. And ultimately, at those 700 locations across the country, we've driven millions and millions of dollars of incremental revenue. Our business model is built so that we only win when our partners win. And ultimately, if we generate an extra $10 in revenue for an asset, we take a small percentage of that revenue. It all goes to the asset owner themselves. And so whether it's a parking operator that's our client or if it's a hotel directly, our goal is to drive incremental revenue that really flows to the bottom line. Parking with what we do has over 70% net margins. So it really is the highest margin incremental revenue opportunity for hotels out there. Ocra is the first AI-powered RMS and GDS purpose-built for hotel parking assets. So at a time where margins are so compressed for real estate assets, particularly hotels, we really have built our business model to ensure that we align with our partners and make sure that what we do is incremental, not only from a revenue perspective, but also NOI. One example of kind of the growth and ability of using Ocra is back when we were just a software, we deployed our software at a hotel that previously in Q1 of that year in 2022 had done about $67,000 in revenue from non-guest parking, which is fantastic. When our software was deployed in Q1 of 2023, that same hotel did about $172,000 in revenue, which is fantastic as well. Now, when we deployed Ocra Copilot, where Ocra revenue managed the asset, Q1 of 2024 was $912,000 in revenue. And in 2025, Q1 was actually $1.1 million. So we continue to see the upside. This isn't just as simple as you deploy the software and it grows the revenue. It's kind of like using a CRM where if no one uses it, you get some value out of it, but not the full potential. So to get the full potential of Ocra, we really want to deploy Copilot, which was designed to be a collaboration with hotels. We really designed this software and this service to ensure that over time we can grow our clients' revenues, make sure that these hotels are seeing incremental revenue. And with over 70% net margins, a lot of this flows to the bottom line. So there's very little OpEx associated, very little CapEx. Ocra just comes in, and no matter what type of asset this is for parking, we can grow the revenue. So let's say you're a hotel that's already selling parking online through a couple of these parking OTAs. What we do is we ensure that we just drive incremental revenue. We're not cannibalizing existing revenue. We're not taking any revenue share away from what you're already doing yourself. And so we will benchmark that revenue, call it maybe $5,000 a month. And anything on top of that, we take our revenue share percentage of. That way we ensure that everything we drive is purely incremental. And so if you went from doing $5,000 a month to $10,000 a month, you'll probably generate over $9,000 yourself out of that to ensure that that is your revenue. And so it's a net gain for the hotel, it's a net gain for Ocra, and it's a rising tide that raises all boats for the parking OTAs as well. We designed Ocra to be a very low risk model for hotels. And what we do is we offer a 30-day out clause because of how confident we are in our ability to drive incremental revenue and be a net positive asset. And so ultimately, this is less work for the hotels than they were already doing before. They make more money, and if it doesn't work, they can just shut us off for 30 days. But our churn is next to nothing because what we do before we look at an asset is pro forma it. We put together a 12-month forecast to ensure that this is a profitable opportunity for the hotel and for Ocra. I'm Ethan Glass, CEO and co-founder of Ocra.